Kind of tell when I'm being a dickhead, which is most of the time.
Cool.
And I pressed record just as I said that as well. That was good.
Yeah.
All right, well, welcome back to Australia.
Thank you.
Could we please just have your names and what you do in the band?
Yeah, John Russell, I'm one of the songwriters, one of the singers, and I play acoustic and electric.
My name's Chris Zashi. Play bass mostly and various other things, but
Awesome.
at times. But yeah.
Well, last I spoke to the band, it was with Tyler, the drummer.
Yeah.
And he was great, he was lovely, and he was friendly, and you guys had just released your latest album, which for me was a long time coming because I am a fan myself, so waiting after the second album, I was getting a bit impatient, but then you did release my favourite album of 2016.
Wow.
So
let's just go ahead and cheers to that.
Yeah, I'll say cheers to that.
Cheers.
I'll
Thank
even
you.
open my drink as well.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful album and
Appreciate it.
polar opposite of the album before.
Yeah, well, it was a good convergence of many things. I mean, how much time was in between the two of them, I think allows for more and more growth and more influences to change over time. But also, it was the first time we had worked with an outside producer, someone other than like a buddy to kind of co-produce with us, like we did on the first two. I think a lot of things were changing. We also took a year off outside of the touring that would have taken us. There was more time, especially since you had seen us here, than when the album came out. In the States, we took like a full year off from touring, period.
Oh, wow.
So we had basically 6 months to ourselves and then 6 months pre-production, writing, and all of that. So for me personally, I was able to do more sort of like, I don't know, different exercises of writing than I typically would if I'm only home for 4 days.
Yeah.
So I kind of got to experiment, and I think I don't know, I got into different ways of finishing songs or starting songs. So I'm sure, obviously some of that influences came out. The songwriting was just changing and things like that, of that nature. But
Yeah, we went from that second record. We basically wrote in a like windowless basement in Seattle in winter.
in December.
And like
brutal.
And like in my head when I listen to that record, it's like, fuck, I hear that.
Yeah, you can. Like coming
it's-
like Another Story, my favourite track from that album. You just listen to it and it just seems like a bunch of people like, come on, can we go back to where we once were?
Yeah, right.
Like there's that frustration and it's like it gets me every time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
And then-
that's in contrast again with a lot of the songs from Signs of Light. There was 6 months off, so I was very particular about sort of curating my time off and traveling and going to places that just sort of got you out of that. Not to say funk, we weren't in a funk, but you were just a little weather beaten.
Yeah.
So it was nice to I went to Los Angeles for 2 months, rented a house, and traveled to other areas. I basically kept traveling. I bought like a van with a bed in the back and kept doing what we do for a living, but on my own terms. And you can specifically say, okay, it's January, I'm going south where it's sunny and warm, and it just, you hear songs that are a little brighter. The color palette, I think, is a lot more of the like brighter colors. So being able to do that on your own time definitely, I think, influences, like, even then when we did come back together as a band and work on these songs, which again was in California, Stanton Beach, beautiful place, very opposite of the basement.
Totally.
So there was so many factors of like, there's a little more positivity. There's like more of an energy in it.
So is the title Signs of Light just basically big fuck you to the second album because you didn't have any signs of light coming in?
I think Josiah, that was like the one major contribution songwriting wise that Josiah had to the record. And that was just the name of the title, was the name of his song, and it just, once we had sort of, through various reasons, sort of whittled down what songs exactly were going to be on the record, Signs of Light sort of encapsulated this little, I don't know, it just sort of felt like an overview of everything that we're talking about and kind of making a listener go through for the whole record. It just seemed like a really nice, like, even as somebody in the band, I think it's kind of great to like listen to Signs of Light and then go back and start the record again. Like, it kind of just is a nice little loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it intentional, I suppose, the brighter sounds? Because as you say, you were travelling around. Were you like, I'm going to do this bright stuff, or it's just where you were?
I think I was intentional, at least, on wanting to like put something more positive out. It just felt like I had at least gone through enough of the like kind of richer, heavier things of like missing home or just being whatever. I think I personally wanted to get out of that.
Yeah.
And I think, like I was saying, that's made me curate like really specific places that I went so that when I was writing, it would be influenced by that. But beyond that, once we come back together as a band, you kind of just, there was just like a freshness to the band as well because of how much time we had had. We've never done that as a band. So everyone just kind of came back like,
let's do something new.
Yeah, like
there was
like,
an openness,
dust it off and like healthy and like had their own personal space for once. And I think that just sort of, easygoing nature comes out in your playing on top of songs that are maybe already set up for that.
Yeah.
So it's, like many factors all converging into making that record. But
I think one of the things that I appreciate of your albums is you can tell it's a head and the heart album, but you can also tell what album it's from. Like the 3 full lengths that you have, it's 3, isn't it?
Yeah.
3 full lengths that you have. Well, as a fan anyway, I can put on an album, not know what it is. That comes from there. That comes from there, and
most of my favorite bands the same way. I've always really, I guess, it doesn't have to happen for every band or every listener doesn't need this, obviously, but most of my favorite bands, it's like a stamp of not only what was going on with other things going on around that time period, but like for them, it's like OK Computer, Kid A, like it's versus the Bends. I mean, I want to feel a new chapter every time they put something else out. Like, well, I don't want to. I can listen to Kid A again.
Yeah,
I don't need to
you
hear
don't
Kid
want
A
part
too.
two.
Although Amnesiac was but still, they were different enough. That's that example. But yeah, I'm that's to me, I think that's quite a compliment. 'Cause to me, that's I strive for that at least, to find neat bands that I've become like lifelong fans of. That's to me like usually a big factor. So.
I'm glad that I could pay that compliment because I mean, the 3 albums you guys have had, I stumbled across the first album by accident. I was looking for Deer in the Headlights. If you've heard of that band.
No. How did that? What's that?
They're an alternative folky kind of sound as well. They no longer exist, but I just saw the word deer and head, and I was like, oh, that must be it, because my mate was telling me about them, and it was your album, and Corridor, I think it was.
Coeur d'Alene.
That just hit my ears. I'm like, well, this isn't the band I was looking for, but
yes, that's gorgeous.
Isn't it lovely?
God. I mean, it is. When it comes in and comes out, man, I love that.
Welcome to Australia.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
God. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
You're
more than welcome to get distracted. I'm surprised I haven't yet. Yeah. Okay, so you've got your 3 albums, and this is your 3rd time in Australia now?
Third time.
So you have a whole new album to show off, but you still have the other 2 albums that you want to, show off again because you haven't had many opportunities. So how do you, especially when you go to a festival, how do you cut down what you're going to display to the fans, all people who haven't heard you?
I feel like, luckily, like you're saying, I think our albums are unique enough, but there's enough like linking them together. I feel like there's some bands historically that will put out a new record and they'll just only play new songs.
Yeah.
And I get that from one part of my brain totally understands that, and then one part of my brain just thinks it's the worst idea. But I think luckily our songs from our last from Sounds of Light still fit with the songs from our first record, so it never feels weird to mix in the songs. And I personally just you can tell in the audience there's people that love or enjoy each one of those records. Yeah. And so you don't want to alienate people by just playing this one thing or this other thing. So we kind of, we don't literally break it up into thirds, but kind of
it usually ends up just working out that way with the set list, because of one thing that I enjoy about these records is I remember when we only had the first album and Let's Be Still, it was sometimes really challenging 2/3 of the way through the set to find that extra pick me up song. So now, if anything, now it's easier because you've got almost different pacings going on. So it creates a really nice blend, like a nice, just the way I like the arcs of sets to go. to be able to pick from 3 different nests, if you will.
It's like you're editing a movie, and instead of like only having like an hour of footage, you have like 3 hours of footage.
Yeah.
So you can get more selective, you can like curate it a little bit more, and it's fun for whether you're playing, 90 minutes or 45 minutes, you can get really specific with what songs to put in and put out. And I personally, I think we all still enjoy playing the songs from the first record. They still mean something,
That's great. You do see some bands, like even only 3 albums in, who've made such a drastic change, and there's fans that don't get to see that first album anymore.
Totally.
With that being said, is there no-go songs for you guys where you're making a set list, you're like, nah, I'm done, or there's too hard to play?
There's definitely we've never played full band. We've never played. I can't even think of it because I've never seen it on the set list. Dreamer on Signs of Light.
Yep, never played it.
I did it like a cappella. I did like a mashup of it. Like I basically like weeded out parts that didn't make sense to where I literally just did it a cappella one night at Red Rocks. And I think depending on how you were, whatever you were, I thought it went okay, but who knows?
There is some songs that like, I feel like it's on the Signs of Light or the Let's Be Still record. I feel like at some point we tried to play every one of those songs, and after like 3 or 4 nights of trying a song, you're like, this just doesn't work. No. This is an album song.
Yeah, that's why they have studios.
Totally, it's not for better for worse. It's just like the song doesn't translate this way the same way it does when you put on your headphones, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to like sort of hit a wall to realize that that's
It's the trial and error.
Yeah.
Do you ever get overwhelmed? I suppose myself as just a solo artist, I get overwhelmed when I'm recording. It's I could just add this in here, but you guys, you've got a big band.
Yeah.
Everyone has ideas.
Honestly, I think it almost makes it easier to know when the song is finished. You have all these sounding boards, you can sense when something is like hitting a threshold.
Yeah.
If I ever make demos, there's plenty of songs I write that just don't, you can just kind of feel, this isn't going to be a Head in the Heart song. And I'll demo it to no ends on like Garage. I love GarageBand.
Yeah.
It's come a long way, man. Don't even knock it.
Love it.
But I think it's harder actually when it's just one person to know when to stop, because also I'm not playing them live, so there's no end, no limit to like what sound could make this one part better. But when it's a full band, you start seeing if you put too much load onto it, you're like, this is actually going to make it more difficult to like really feel like it's like you're pulling it off in a strong way. So that almost becomes like the the cap. I think it's kind of helpful actually having that many people to limit it for you in a way.
That does sound that way. How are we for time?
I reckon another minute or two.
Another minute? All right. There was that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you were saying that this album, your producer, you went with a full producer instead of co-producing.
Right.
If you had a dream producer, you could, like, even somebody that has passed away, if you could just work with one person to make the Head and the Heart the best bands that could ever be, who would you go with?
Do it.
Brian Eno and Daniel Lenoir.
Yeah.
That combo.
Yeah.
It's just
you can't say no to Brian Eno.
Oh
I
my
think
God,
that's just
I know.
those two. I've done some pretty like deep YouTube rabbit holes of like watching interviews with those two guys, and just their individual take on music and recording, and then their sort of collective take on music and recording is like, it's just, I feel like it is exactly, they're like speaking my language. It's incredible. I think that would be,
Do you feel it could be a possibility? I mean, you guys are 3 albums in now. You've got some cred. I mean, you're talking to Sean from Australia, so you've made it, really.
Yeah.
So,
we're on their radar.
Yeah, exactly.
You can tell that we're on their radar.
Exactly. So just one little email and Oh, that's well, that would be exciting. I mean, that would be an album that I would already love before you even wrote it, I think.
Yeah.
So. And to keep it cliche, because everyone in Australia does, what's been your favourite part here in Australia? Have you climbed the Harbour Bridge? No? That's a thing you can do. I don't recommend it. It costs a lot of money and it's scary as shit.
Yeah. We took a little ferry out to Manly Beach. That was kind of a nice little.
Yeah.
I mean, get away.
Get away.
If you're stuck in the city, I mean, I know it's, I guess, probably still part of the city technically, but that was a kind of nice little, just feel like you get out of town.
Yeah, I just, it's not like this thing or that. I just enjoy tropical places. Like, I grew up in Florida. So to me, walking around and you see like, I don't know, maybe traditional like English architecture, but it's with tropical plants and this humidity, and walking around 7 o'clock at night, it's lovely. It's perfect. It's perfect. You're perfect. Australia, you're perfect.
That's how I'm going to title the article. Australia, you're perfect. I like that. And one final question from a fan's point of view. There we go.
Pan's point of view.
And a pan's point of view as well. When am I going to get new music? Not everyone else, just me. When am I going to get new music? Have you started?
We started. We did a like a 3-week writing trip in Joshua Tree in
nice.
January, February. So the day we get home, or the day after we get home from this trip, we're heading into the studio and starting to record. And
awesome.
I feel like we're trying to, especially after the last, from album 2 to album 3, I think we're
trying to cut down,
more conscious of like how much time elapsed. So we're trying to like fit in writing and recording sort of into your year, as opposed to like
relentlessly for a year and a half. Take off 1 month with holidays, and then where you hanging out with your family, and then going in the studio because you're ready, right?
Yeah, of course. That's what you do.
Trying to, the hope is to write more often, record more often, and so we're hopefully. I think summer is kind of like a solid goal that we have to try to hit.
That's awesome, and I am very appreciative of the live sessions you released to tie us over while we wait for the new album. Because the gap between the second album and the third, don't do that again.
Yeah.
For a fan, I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah. I know, it's tough, man.
But you guys, you made up for it, as I said, with an exceptional album. And
thank you very much.
Yeah, this is a dream come true meeting you guys. You've been a soundtrack to my life for a long time, through a childbirth, through a divorce, and through a grandmother's death, and you've kept me sane.
All the sunny sides of life. That's what we're here for.